Shifting from right to left. Play action to that side. Rolling right, looking. Fires in the end zone. Gonna be caught. Touchdown. That's a tight end from 15 yards out.
Welcome to the Bowl Season Stories Podcast, Season 3, Episode 19. I'm Nick Carparelli, the Executive Director of Bowl Season. And today we are joined by Big Ten Conference Commissioner Tony Petitti and Air Force Academy running back Emmanuel Michel. If you missed any of our previous episodes, you can catch them on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, or anywhere else you listen to your podcasts. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd appreciate you to like, subscribe, and drop a 5-star rating. And as always, you can follow all the bowl season news on our website, bowlseason.com, and on social media at Bowl Season. Today's show is brought to you by Sport Radar, reimagining immersive experiences for sports fans and bettors. Our first guest is in his first year as the commissioner of the Big Ten Conference. He is a proven leader who brings nearly 4 decades of experience in college and professional sports. He most recently served as Deputy Commissioner and Chief Operating Officer of Major League Baseball and President and Chief Executive Officer of the MLB Network. Please welcome to the show Big Ten Conference Commissioner Tony Petitti. Tony, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's great to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Tony, you're the newest FBS Commissioner, haven't been hired back in May. Tell us about your first 6 months on the job and what is a day in the life like for the Big Ten Commissioner?
Yeah, it's been a really, first of all, it's been great to have the job. I mean, I love the job and the opportunity, especially at this time in college athletics. There's so much going on. But, the ability to work with these great institutions and represent our student athletes and have the kind of season we had this past fall has been really exciting. And on top of that, just being involved with all sports, being able to get out and get on campus is really the best part of the job. Obviously there's been some big things with expansion, and then, having to redo our schedules across all sports, and then getting up to speed on all the things that are impacting, student athletes in the future model for college athletics. It's almost like having 2 jobs, running the conference in the traditional way every day, but then also working with my colleagues in the other conferences to try to figure out how to solve some of these bigger structural issues.
Well, I hope to get into a couple of those issues a little bit later. You come from a strong sports media background. We mentioned your time at MLB. Before that, you spent 8 years at ABC, 10 years at CBS. In those roles, you used to negotiate television deals for conferences, bowl games. So you're on the other side of the equation. How has your perspective coming from the media segment of collegiate sports prepared you for your current role as commissioner?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's sort of unique is that I was able to, in my role on the media side at ABC and CBS, specifically to not only just, buy existing packages of rights, but help shape those. And when you're doing that, you're building relationships with, commissioners to be able to do that. The BCS is a good example. That was a pretty significant change in college football. And so in a lot of ways, I was talking with Commissioners Kramer and Delaney and Hansen and Corrigan, every day. And so I think I saw a different perspective of it. Is not just like, hey, here's the rights package. How much do you want to pay? And let's buy it and then we'll schedule it. It was a little bit different. So I felt like that experience really helped me. And the other part of it is when I was at MLB, when you're on the league side and selling rights from a league side, I think it's a different feel also, right? Because you're sort of on the inside. So I've been lucky to be on both sides where I've sold significant rights and also, been mostly buying them. So I think that part's been really helpful in this job and understanding how conferences work. There's a lot of similarity to how MLB operates, right? We've got our soon-to-be 18 members and 28 sports. MLB's got 30 teams, 30 owners, 30 general managers. It's sort of there's a similarity in how you have to work and build consensus.
You hit it. My days at the Big East. That's the key, right? Building consensus. You don't have one boss to please. Like, if somebody owning an NFL team or a Major League Baseball team, you have 18 people you have to keep happy. It's a big chore. I know that.
Yeah, right. And they're not all similarly situated, right? So just everything by sport, by resources, by strengths, it's all different. And you have to understand how that, impacts you with the way you make decisions. You got to do the best for everybody all the time.
Now, you alluded to this. The Big Ten is currently in the midst of a major conference expansion. You're going to 18 teams. Prior to your hire, the conference added USC and UCLA. And since you've been there, you've added Oregon and Washington. All 4 of them will begin Big Ten competition next season. That being said, tell us about your vision for the conference moving forward with 18 teams, and how are you positioning the Big Ten as the first coast-to-coast conference in college sports?
Yeah, I think it starts with going back to what it's like to be inside the Big Ten and why these additions, USC, UCLA, prior to me arriving, and then Oregon and Washington this past summer. First is, the academic compatibility is really important to our presidents. It's a big part of the tradition and the sense of what the Big Ten is. And so those four, are there. The next thing that's really important is having great strength and depth in broad-based Olympic sports. And those four fit the bill there. And the next thing is, to be in the Big Ten right now, being strong in football really is important. And so that's where we start. And those four couldn't fit, more perfectly. The coast to coast part, I think, as you think about, all these changes and the things that are happening structurally, I just believe having, scale and great content across multiple sports is really important in the future. And I think we're set up to do that, so that, as things change, our games, our student athletes are going to be extremely relevant. And so the strength of a league will always be there. So regardless of what happens in the media landscape, as we move to streaming or other things, people are going to want and care deeply about Big Ten's, sports across all of our sports. And so that's the way I sort of look at it. Like, we're positioned really well. We're deep, we have great scale. We have incredibly passionate fan base. We've got great student athletes, we've got great academic tradition, and we've got great media partners to navigate the next few years. So I feel, really bullish that we're in such a great place. So I'm excited about that. Now, like, there's the things that we'll learn when you add and you change the geography. We'll learn some things over these next year or so. And, just like anything else, scheduling is kind of a living thing, and we'll make adjustments as we see fit, but we feel really great about where we are.
Now, this was your first bowl season as commissioner of the Big Ten. What are your biggest takeaways, and why do you think bowl games are so important to your conference?
Yeah, there's sort of two parts, right? There's the part, as we get into an expanded CFP next year, about giving, teams the opportunity to play for a national championship. And I really believe that, 4 just wasn't enough. So I'm excited about the fact that we're expanding, giving more programs a chance to get in and just play it and let it get decided on the field. And so more is better there, 100%. And then secondly, for those teams that just don't get to that level in a given season, giving them the opportunity to play for something, to play a meaningful opponent in a venue that's, where their fans can travel and feel good about it, give them a different initial experience, keep them together to practice. Like, that's all always been really important. And I think, college football has always had to navigate both of those halves, right? Driving a meaningful championship while at the same time, rewarding other programs. Because, if you think about like a professional league, it's 30 or 32 teams. We've got so many more teams, and then very few get the opportunity to play, for that championship. And so it's just great that the sport's always done a good job of trying to expand the opportunities for student athletes.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think people get surprised sometimes when they ask me about my opinion of the playoff, in my role overseeing bowl season. I tell them all the time, I love the playoff. I think it's great for college football. This sport needs a meaningful mechanism to crown a national champion. But as you said, there's so many institutions, and they're not all created equal. Even within your own conference, you could argue you oversee the top 1 or 2 most successful and powerful conferences in the country. But within your own membership, it's diverse, right? Not all of your institutions can aspire to reach that playoff on an annual basis, and they need a meaningful opportunity to enjoy the postseason. I think bowl season does that for them.
Yeah, that's a great way to define success, right? So you're able to say that, this is a successful season. We qualified to play in a bowl. We had a good experience. You win the game, hopefully. And that's, leads into the next season. You build upon that.
I want to turn back the clock to your years as an executive at ABC and CBS. We mentioned earlier you were involved in televising bowl games. What are some of your favorite bowl memories from back then, and bowl games you've attended or bowl games you watched?
Yeah, I think the first early one is probably the Sugar Bowl. When it was the first year of the conference championship in the SEC, which we had the rights to at ABC Sports. We had the first one. The game was played in Birmingham, in Alabama. I think, if I remember right, gone into that game number 1 in the country. They're playing the Steve Spurrier tough Florida team. They had to win that game, and then if they didn't, their chance to win the national championship was probably gone at that point. So it was a lot of pressure on that game. They came through, they won the game, and then they went to the Sugar Bowl to play Miami, and they won the national championship. So, that whole run up from that regular season was probably, like, I think the second season where I really worked on the college football schedule, like fully. And so, that run up and then getting through that first championship game, and then going into that, into that Sugar Bowl, it was just really special. And then, I went to one of the early Rose Bowls that ABC had back in the day when it moved from NBC there. So they're all just great experience. I've been fortunate to go to pretty much, most of them at this point. And, it's obviously different in this role than that. There you're hoping for a close game. You're less vested in the outcome, obviously. But you want, you just want a great game on the field. So that part of it's great. And you realize also like that, just all the things that happen around a bowl game, the volunteers and the traditions that, are away from the field that the student athletes get to experience. Like it's meaningful, like, and they're fun. And it's part of it. It's always been that tradition.
I think our listeners know that this show generally does not consist of a lot of hard-hitting questions. Most of my questions to you have been pretty easy so far. I do need to challenge you on one, and we talked about this. I want to just get your perspective, because in the last couple of weeks, we've heard a lot of coaches speak out about what has happened to the quality of bowl games with so many players entering the transfer portal.
Mm-hmm.
From Kirk Smart, Dabo Sweeney, Kirk Ferentz from your conference, and I generally agree with them. And I think it's important to understand that they are careful to say that they love bowl games and they're going to be around. I've been making the point that bowl games are not the problem. It's the stacking up of all these major events at the same time: the transfer portal, the early signing period, the preparation these teams are going for the postseason, all happening at once. It seems as if the college football calendar needs to be reinvented. What do you think we can do to fix these problems, not just for the sake of the bowl system, but for the game of college football in general?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. One, obviously you're right. It's not the bowl game that creates this problem, right? So that's not the issue. It's the fact that we have a system that we don't have a lot of control over, and look, student athletes should be able to move and go to the places where they want to go to get the best opportunities. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the right thing. But all of that, it has an impact on the bowls, right? But it's at the very sort of back of the season. We have a lot of work to do on what the future model is with student athletes. And I just think that, obviously going forward, student athletes are going to get more benefits, and we've got to, embrace that. And I think we do. And we expect it to continue to go in that direction. The question is, when we do that, how can we still protect, participation in games and what's, what makes sense? And look, you have to understand, like, for every individual player, their own decision is very personal, and it could be about, pursuing a professional career. It could be about pursuing an opportunity to play someplace else within the college system. Like, that's all fair. Like, no one should be criticized for making those decisions, right? You got, we all start from the place of doing what's best for the, for the individual and their family. But also at the same time, respecting what the overall, their teammates and everything. So it's a little bit, it's difficult, because to me, it's about solving these bigger issues that we're facing. And until we solve those, this is probably not going to change very much.
Yeah, I agree. Last question for you, Tony. In this time of great change and unpredictability in college athletics, what do you think, or should I say hope, the next 12 months has in store for us?
I think we get to a place where, we can have a system that we can sustain, that's rational, that is still about the student athlete model being protected, that works for an overwhelming majority of student athletes. It always has. There are great opportunities. We have great institutions. We want to protect that, while at the same time we modernize our rules. We find a way to give student athletes more, and put all those things together and thread that needle to come out with a system that does all of those things. But there's, the core of what we do is still great. But things are changing, and we have to understand that, and we've got to get to a place where, there's some sustainability and a positive rationale for how we do things. And so I think hopefully the next 12 years we'll have more clarity on getting to a place where, it just looks a little bit different than it does now.
I hope you're right. Well, Tony, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks.
Appreciate your time. Really appreciate the fact that you're in your current role and in a position to influence what happens in the future of college athletics. A lot of people say you came from outside college athletics. I happen to know that you know college athletics as well as anybody, and have seen it from different directions. So you're perfectly positioned to be a part of the solution. We appreciate that. Good luck to you and your conference in Michigan in the championship game.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks for your time. Really enjoyed it.
Okay, take care.
Thank you. Take care.
TaxAct knows watching college football is fun. Doing your taxes? Not so much. That's why they make filing simple. So let's get them over with. TaxAct, the official tax filing software of bowl season. Go to taxact.com to get started today. Our next guest just completed his football playing career after 5 years at the Air Force Academy. The senior fullback ran for an Air Force bowl record 203 yards on 35 carries on his way to becoming the MVP of the 2023 Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. Please welcome to the show, Emmanuel Michel. Your friends call you E-Man. I'll do that if that's okay with you. E-Man, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. That's perfect. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
All right, well, let's start off by talking about that Armed Forces Bowl. In two parts to it. Before we talk about what happened on the field, tell us a little bit about the bowl week activities and what you enjoyed the most about your time there.
The bowl week is fun. I've been a part of quite a few, I guess even going back to 2019 with the Cheez-It Bowl. So I kind of experienced pretty much a good bit and kind of get the gist of it all. I think the best thing, the most memorable thing was the luncheon we had the day before the game. When we had a Medal of Honor recipient come and speak to us. His name was Flo. And I think that was just kind of impactful, just hearing his story and things that he went through and how he ended up winning a Medal of Honor. So I think that was the biggest thing that was like most fun. And then we had this like little trading card thing where we were like competing with the other team to see who got the best card, best trading card. And I think that was a little fun too. So those are probably the two biggest things I'll take away from that week.
Very cool. Well, on the field, you rushed for 203 yards on 35 carries, as we said, broke an Air Force bowl record. Now, up to that point in your career, you played 33 games. You didn't have a ton of 100-yard rushing games.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, you bust out with 203 in your last game. What a great memory to go out with. What was going through your head during the game?
I mean, really kind of just going through the week. Take you back even further. I kind of just got injured a little bit on the back half of the season. Didn't really play much in November. And I finally got healthy and just kind of had one more game to wear the blue uniform. And it was just kind of a mindset going into that week and that preparation, just making the most of it and just go out with a bang. Like kind of one of those games where you don't even want to get out the game and you just want to just lay it all on the line. And kind of when the game started, come out for pregame, you just kind of just soaking in that moment because it's that last game. It's kind of like that big culmination of what you've done in your career there at the school, and it's like, dang, you got to just make the most of it. And really, it started with the first play of that game. I mean, breaking away for about 50, I was like, okay, this is going to be a good day, and obviously the rest was history after that.
You deserved that experience for sure. You worked a long time for that. We talk a lot in today's climate about the demands of being a student athlete, especially at a high level. But for you and your teammates, even more than that, student athletes plus, I call it. Can you please walk us through a typical day of being an athlete at the Air Force Academy and highlight some of the bigger differences, as far as you know, between your programs and the traditional FBS programs? Yeah,
man. It's a good bit. And you kind of get used to it as you go on and kind of forget how much you actually have to endure being a cadet at the Air Force Academy. But as the day starts, you're waking up around 6:30. You have formation in the morning around 6:45, and then from there you got breakfast, and then you have all your classes in the morning, and you're taking classes like electrical, computer engineering, aeronautical engineering. You're taking all these heavy classes, and they give you a real broad range of just academics to just make you a well-rounded individual. And that's probably a big thing that's different from another program. And then from there, you have new mill formation where you're marching and all this stuff. And then in the afternoon, you have practice and everything, and you're not getting back to your room until about 7:30, 8 o'clock. Then you got to do your homework. And then you still have other jobs that you have within your squadron, just military jobs that you got to attend to. So it's just a lot of yes, you have your academics, you have your football, but you got to just attend to a lot of military stuff. That's just another load that pretty much takes just as much time as the other two things I just mentioned. So I think the biggest thing just from an FBS program, another FBS program from the football perspective, just probably our resources a little bit limited and the things you're allowed to do. Obviously, with the NILs and the transfer portal, we don't have that here. In terms of just you go to other programs, and I got buddies at Clemson, Auburn, and Michigan, and all that. Like they just get fed well. Really, they go there and it's strictly football. for the most part, and that's their number one reason for being there. And for us, we got a lot of other things to attend to on top of trying to win football games and play at a high level.
I got to ask you kind of a little different kind of question, because I was watching the game, and there was a post-game interview with one of your teammates. You probably didn't see it because you were on the field celebrating and collecting your MVP trophy. Your teammate, Bo Richter, was asked about your team's performance, and I'm going to quote what he said, because I rewound it and I made my 19 and 21-year-old sons watch it, because it was such an unusual answer for however old you guys are now, 23-year-old individual. He said, our coaches never give us a break, and that's what we expect from them. They never give us a day off, and we appreciate that. They never get off our back, and we love them to death and appreciate them. It just struck me as just a different type of answer for today's young men. Tell us about that mindset. I'm guessing that's a typical answer any one of your teammates would have given.
Yeah, you ask anybody that's probably the answer you're gonna get. We just embrace the grind. We love it, and we want our coaches to push us to the furthest extent and to continue to make us better. And even going into a bowl game, a lot of people can kind of relax and ease off the gas, but like at that point, we're ready to go as hard as we ever gone. And then all of our coaches, even Coach Calhoun, head coach, was just like, practice is gonna be hard. It's gonna be tough. We're gonna continue to push you, and you're gonna be an even better football player than you thought you were, throughout the 12 weeks during the season. And that's just kind of our mindset. It's how we go. And the academy has a little bit to play into that, just because you're always doing something. There's always something to achieve. There's always a way you can get better. And even if you're good, you're just another level you can tap into. And it's just that mindset, just not getting complacent and just always striving for more.
Let's talk a little bit more about your bowl experience. The Air Force football program has now won 5 straight bowl games. You were part of 4 of them. You were at the Cheez-It Bowl when early in your career, and I don't think you played in that one, but you were on the trip. Then you played in 2 Armed Forces Bowl, a First Responder Bowl. What does that string of success in the postseason mean to the Air Force football program? And are there any memories from those other bowl experiences that stick out in your mind?
It means a lot, man, because at those times you're playing a pretty good opponent. We played Washington State, and they're a ranked team back then in 2019. Played Louisville, who's a good team, and just got done having a good year this year. We played Baylor last year. There was another good team, and obviously Jamie had good success. So you're playing good opponents, and be able to come out and just show what Air Force football is about and the hard work that we put in day in, day out, and to be able to just finish with a top tier opponent and really dominate, which I feel like we've done in the last few years. It just means a lot, and just shows what we're all about. And then,
go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah,
just on favorite. You asked me favorite experience, favorite moment. Probably be this last game, just being able to go out like that.
You'll remember that one forever.
Yeah.
One of my favorite stats every year is that the Service Academy is ranked near the top of FBS for least amount of penalties. I think people attribute that to the emphasis put on discipline within those academies. How do you think the value of discipline plays in the game of football?
It's huge, because it's a game of inches, and when you get into these big games, like the team that makes the least amount of mistakes, it's going to put themselves in a good position to be successful. And you can just look at the last weekend in these college football playoff games, and just the amount of just little mistakes that happen kind of just change the course of the football game. And momentum is a big thing, and the game can swing in any which way with turnovers and penalties and putting yourself behind the 8 ball. So it's huge, man. And I'm glad I was at a program that just emphasized discipline, because not even on the football field, but as a man, it's just important to just have that characteristic.
Last question for you. You graduated in December prior to the bowl game. That means you were a second lieutenant in the United States Air Force while playing in the bowl game. What does your post-graduation life look like, and how do you think the lessons you learned on the football field will translate into your job in the Air Force?
So right now, I'm on 60 days of leave, kind of just hanging out with the family and just doing whatever I want, really. And I don't report to my base and my job until the end of February. And just with the things that I learned with football, you really just learn leadership and resiliency and all these things. And it kind of just makes whatever job I go into just easy, because I just experience the hardship, the adversity, and how to overcome it, and how to stay poised and calm under pressure and not be fearful or run from anything. We're going to hit anything just straight on. And I think just football is invaluable to just teach you like everything you need to know to just be a solid young man.
Well, E-Man, thanks so much for your time. We really appreciate hearing your perspective, that your mindset on your approach to the game. You were fun to watch for 4 years. You're an asset to the game of football, but even more so, you're an asset to this country. Really an amazing young man. It's a privilege for us to have you on the show today. So thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for everything.
Take care. Well, that'll do it for this week's podcast. If you missed any of our past episodes, you can catch them on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, or anywhere else you listen to your podcasts. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd appreciate you to like, subscribe, and drop a 5-star rating. And as always, you could follow all the bowl season news on our website, bowlseason.com, and on social media @bowlseason. Thanks for listening.